How well do you truly understand yourself? There's a quiet question that lingers within each of us, like a whisper from the deepest part of the mind. Do I really understand myself? Not just knowing your fleeting preferences or impulsive decisions, but understanding how your mind operates, knowing why there are moments when emotions erupt, when reactions spiral out of control, or when relationships grow tense even though no one intends for it to happen. Many people believe it's enough to simply follow emotions, rely on logic, or adapt to their environment. But the truth isn't that simple. The human mind is far more complex, and without understanding how it receives and processes the world, you will continue repeating cycles of confusion in your career, in relationships, and within yourself. Each person experiences reality through a unique lens. Some prioritize logic, analyzing everything with reason. Some live fully in their emotions, letting the heart lead the way. Some are grounded in reality, trusting only what can be sensed. Others dream of possibilities yet to come, living through intuition and visions. 8 mental operating styles, 8 ways of engaging with the world, create the diversity between people. But they're also the root of conflict and misunderstanding. No one teaches us how to listen to these operating mechanisms from a young age. Instead, society molds each person into ready-made patterns, suppressing emotions, demanding logic where it's unnecessary, or vice versa. And when life starts to feel heavy, no one realizes that the cause doesn't lie outside, but in living contrary to how their mind was naturally designed. Understanding your personality type isn't about labeling yourself. It's about freeing yourself from unconscious patterns so that decisions, relationships, and everyday actions can feel lighter, more natural, and truer to your essence. 1. The types of people Jung defined. Who are you among the 4 core personality types? There's a question that seems simple but touches the deepest layers of the mind. Who are you? Not the name you carry, not the role you play in society, but the true essence that drives your mind. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, dedicated his life to finding the answer to that question, and he discovered, you are not controlling your mind, it is your mind. With its unconscious mechanisms, that is operating you. Jung divided people into 4 core personality types, 4 ways in which we interact with the world and process reality. Each type is a lens, a way of seeing, thinking, feeling, that shapes how we live, love, work, and face challenges. But here's the thing. Most people go through life never realizing which lens they're seeing the world through. Thinkers, the rational ones. If you're a thinker, your mind operates like a cold, analytical machine. Logic, systems, structure. This is the language you use to understand the world. You don't just ask, is it true? You constantly seek to prove whether it's right or wrong. For thinkers, objective truth matters more than personal feelings. They believe in solving problems for reason and feel most comfortable setting rules, building systems, analyzing data. Life to them is like one big equation where everything has an answer. But because of this, thinkers can easily fall into the trap of emotional detachment. They might come across as dry, indifferent to the subtle human dynamics in relationships. Have you ever been told, you're too cold, you don't care enough? Maybe it's because you've gotten used to explaining feelings with logic instead of listening to them. Feelers, the emotional ones. If you're a feeler, your mind is like a deep lake where every experience is touched through emotions. Values, meaning, connection. These are what guide you. You don't just ask, is it right? But also, does it feel right to my heart? Feelers care about harmony in relationships, always working to create empathy, connection, and uphold deep spiritual values. They see the world not through numbers or events, but through emotions and what carries meaning. But the price of this sensitivity is that feelers are easily hurt, easily swayed by emotions in their decisions. Have you ever felt pulled into someone else's sadness, someone else's disappointment, and forgotten yourself? That's when you need to remember. Emotions are a guide, but they're not always the driver. Sensors, the practical ones. If you're a sensor, your mind operates like a compass pointing directly to reality in front of you. You stick close to events, concrete experiences, what can be perceived through your 5 senses. For you, reality is something that can be verified. It's what's happening here and now. Sensors are reliable, practical, quick to act, not caught up in lofty dreams or theories detached from reality. They build life brick by brick, grounded in the tangible, and feel safe in what's been tested. But because of this, sensors can easily miss hidden opportunities, deeper connections beyond the obvious. Have you ever dismissed an idea just because it wasn't proven yet? Maybe you're living too close to the present and forgetting that the future is built from what doesn't exist yet. Intuitives, the visionaries. If you're an intuitive, your mind is a vast canvas where everything is connected, full of potential, layered with hidden meanings. You don't just look at what's happening, you ask, what's really happening behind the scenes? Where is this leading? Intuitives are dreamers, creatives, always seeking new possibilities, always questioning the future. They aren't limited by what is, they live in the realm of ideas, models, and visions. But the weakness of intuitives is that they can get lost in the world of ideas, forgetting the present. Have you ever felt inspired by a project, but abandoned it halfway because a new idea appeared before you finished the first one? That's the intuitive struggle. 4 types, 4 lenses. But the question doesn't stop there. Are you living true to your lens, or are you operating through the lens that society forces on you? Maybe you're a thinker, but have been told to be more emotional. Maybe you're a feeler, but were taught to be rational. Jung warned, we easily get swept up by social expectations and forget who we really are. And when that happens, life feels heavy because you're trying to be someone you're not. The journey to recognizing your core personality type isn't to box yourself in. It's to understand yourself more deeply so you can live in harmony with your mind, where logic, emotion, the present, and the future can all coexist. 4 types, 4 lenses. But the question doesn't stop there. Are you living true to your lens, or are you operating through the lens that society forces on you? Maybe you're a thinker, but have been told to be more emotional. Maybe you're a feeler, but were taught to be rational. Jung warned, we easily get swept up by social expectations and forget who we really are. And when that happens, life feels heavy because you're trying to be someone you're not. The journey to recognizing your core personality type isn't to box yourself in. It's to understand yourself more deeply so you can live in harmony with your mind, where logic, emotion, the present, and the future can all coexist. 2. Breaking free from social conditioning. When you live out of alignment with your own mind. From the moment you were a child, you were a blank canvas, but not because you chose to be. The first strokes weren't drawn by you, but by your parents, teachers, and society. They taught you how to think, how to feel, how to behave, not based on who you truly are, but based on what they believed was right. If you were a logical child, one who loved to analyze and ask why, maybe you were told, you need to feel more, don't always be so rational. And if you were a sensitive, emotional child, you might have heard things like, don't be so weak, or toughen up. These seemingly harmless remarks were the first seeds planted in your mind, and over time, they grew into invisible patterns, distorting how you saw yourself. Carl Jung once said, most people live their lives inside a box, but never realize they're in a box. That box wasn't built by you, but by the expectations society placed around you. And the frightening part is, live inside that box long enough, and you begin to think it's your home. The inner conflict, when your true self is suppressed, when you live out of alignment with how your mind naturally operates. Inner conflict begins to spark. You feel tired without knowing why. Every decision feels difficult. Relationships feel forced. Your smile grows emptier. A logical person forced to feel more deeply slowly feels lost in their own emotions. They try to empathize, but deep down, feel confused by the emotional current. An emotional person pushed to be logical gradually disconnects from their heart. They make decisions based on reason but secretly doubt them because they don't feel right. A practical person pressured to dream bigger starts to believe they're inadequate because they can't envision distant possibilities. An intuitive person forced to stick to realism forgets their creative ideas, losing touch with the source of their inspiration. This is the most subtle form of spiritual wounding when you are no longer yourself. Yet you don't even realize you're pretending. Unconscious defense mechanism. Learning to wear a mask. When you spend too long under such pressure, you develop ways to protect yourself. You wear a mask. You pretend to be who the world expects. The logical person learns to smile politely, to say agreeable things, even though their mind is full of cold analyses. The emotional person learns to craft logical arguments, even though their heart is overwhelmed with unnamed feelings. The practical person learns to speak of future visions, even though they only see the next step ahead. The intuitive person learns to keep silent about far-reaching ideas, even though their mind is a universe of connections. That mask helps you survive, but it doesn't let you live authentically. And the danger is, wear the mask long enough, and you forget your real face. The consequences, a heavy life, fractured relationships. When you live against the grain of your mind, everything becomes harder than it needs to be. Decisions exhaust you because you no longer know which voice is truly yours. Work loses its meaning because you're doing something that doesn't fit the way your mind operates. Relationships become distant because you can't reveal your true self, and others don't know how to connect with the real you. Maybe you felt it before, sitting in a crowded room but feeling alone, laughing and chatting but feeling hollow inside, achieving success in the eyes of the world but always sensing that something is missing. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Recognizing social conditioning, the first step to breaking the box. To break free from that suffocation, you first need to see the invisible box holding you. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I feel I must? Am I thinking this way because it's my nature, or because someone taught me I should? How many of my decisions truly come from my inner self? Remember, logic is not meant for everyone. Emotions aren't something everyone needs to learn to control. Realism is not the only standard. Dreaming isn't useless. Each person has their own way of operating when you live aligned with it. Life feels lighter, decisions become clearer, and relationships grow more genuine. Free. The two foundational attitudes, introversion and extroversion, gateways into the deep mind. Before delving deeper into the types of personality, Carl Jung identified a foundational structure, like a doorway into how our minds operate, introversion and extroversion. These are not simple labels, as society often uses them, where introversion is equated with shyness or timidity, and extroversion with being outgoing or sociable. Jung saw far deeper. These are two ways in which psychic energy moves, either inward or outward, shaping your entire way of experiencing and interacting with the world. Imagine that each of us is a flame, but the question is, do you burn from within, fueling your energy through inner thoughts and feelings, like an introvert? Or do you blaze brightly in the open air, drawing energy from connections and experiences in the outer world, like an extrovert? Introversion. When the inner world is the source of energy. For the introvert, the world truly begins from within. They feel recharged when alone, reflecting, connecting with their private stream of thoughts. This is not about avoiding social interaction, but a necessary choice to maintain internal balance. An introvert can be very confident, even leading conversations, but afterward, they need quiet time to process emotions and information they've just experienced. They can spend hours contemplating an idea, writing down thoughts, or simply sitting quietly with their feelings, and that is when they truly feel alive. Here's the key. Introversion is not a lack of social skills, but a way of managing psychic energy. They find the inner world richer and deeper than the outer world. When pulled into too much social interaction, an introvert becomes drained, like a flame consumed by too strong a wind. Extroversion, when the outer world is a vibrant flow. Conversely, for the extrovert, energy is replenished through connections, experiences, and action. They feel most alive when engaged in activities, conversations, and discovering new things. An extrovert doesn't hesitate to approach strangers, lead crowds, and share their emotions without much overthinking. They find joy in interaction and exploration, feeling that the outer world is an endless source of energy. But it's important to understand, extroversion does not mean lacking depth. An extrovert may have deep thoughts, but they need a vibrant environment to nourish them. If forced into prolonged isolation, an extrovert will feel sluggish, stagnant, like a flame stifled in a closed space. When the two attitudes meet, the classic misunderstanding. Imagine an introvert and an extrovert in the same relationship or working environment. The introvert feels the need for quiet time after each deep conversation. The extrovert, on the other hand, feels more energized after each connection, wanting to keep it going. This difference isn't a problem, unless both fail to understand that they operate from two distinct sources of energy. The introvert may see the extrovert as too loud or superficial. The extrovert may think the introvert is too closed off or cold. But once they understand, they realize each person has their own way of recharging, their own way of experiencing the world. Instead of judging, they can respect and complement each other. The dynamic nature of the two attitudes. No one is fully introvert or extrovert. Carl Jung once said, "There is no such thing as a pure introvert or extrovert. If there were, they'd surely be in an asylum." We all have both tendencies, but one will usually dominate. Sometimes, an introvert can act very extroverted in a certain context, and vice versa. A creative introvert might immerse themselves in their inner world of ideas, but when it comes time to share their passion, they can explode with extroverted energy. An entrepreneurial extrovert may thrive in social environments, but after a while, they need to withdraw to reorganize their thoughts. Flexibility between these two attitudes is a sign of a mature mind. Introversion and extroversion, gateways into the deep mind. What set Jung apart was that he didn't stop at categorizing people as introvert or extrovert. He saw these as gateways to a deeper structure of the psyche. A thinking introvert will analyze logic inwardly, continually checking their assumptions. A thinking extrovert will apply logic outwardly, building systems and testing them in the real world. A feeling introvert will make decisions based on deep, personal emotions, often invisible to others. A feeling extrovert will adjust their emotions according to group dynamics, striving for social harmony. An intuitive introvert will ponder hidden possibilities and symbols within, as if decoding their inner world. An intuitive extrovert will constantly connect ideas, exploring new possibilities out there, always expanding horizons. A sensing introvert will focus on familiar experiences, memories, traditions. A sensing extrovert will immerse themselves in present moment experiences, engaging all five senses. The two foundational attitudes, introversion and extroversion, are not just labels. They are flows of psychic energy that nourish the way each of your mental functions operates. And when you understand which way your energy flows, you don't just learn how to live true to your nature, you learn how to nurture your mind so it doesn't burn out. 4. 8 personality types. When 4 functions combine with 2 attitudes. Once you understand the 2 fundamental attitudes, introversion and extroversion, the door into the psyche begins to open wider. But that is just the surface layer. Carl Jung delved deeper into the architecture of the mind, realizing that the 4 cognitive functions, thinking, feeling, sensing, intuition, when combined with these 2 attitudes, form 8 personality types, 8 unique ways each person perceives and processes reality. These are not just superficial descriptions of personality. Each type represents a complex psychological structure, where mental energy is directed and information is processed in a very distinct way. The combination of the dominant function and primary attitude determines through which lens you view the world and how you interact with reality. Extroverted thinking, Te, characteristics. These individuals are the architects of social order. They seek efficiency, structure, and practical outcomes. They believe in applying logic to the external world, creating systems and processes where everything runs smoothly. Approach to reality. They analyze external data, evaluate situations based on concrete evidence, and organize their environment for maximum optimization. Strengths, management, organization, quick practical problem solving, unaffected by emotions. Weaknesses, they can be too cold, rigid, and dismissive of personal feelings and human relationships. Their world revolves around numbers, rules, and performance, sometimes overlooking the human side behind the figures. Introverted thinking, T, characteristics. Unlike Te, introverted thinking types are inner philosophers, concerned with understanding the core of issues, not just for application, but for genuine comprehension. Approach to reality. They build and refine internal systems of logic, constantly dissecting concepts and questioning assumptions. For them, truth is pure and absolute. Strengths, deep analysis, intellectual independence, the ability to reach the root of any issue. Weaknesses, they can become detached from reality, overly theoretical, and struggle to communicate their ideas to others. Extroverted feeling, Fe, characteristics. These individuals read others' emotions like an open book. They guide group emotions, striving to create harmony and connection. Approach to reality. They prioritize relationships, group feelings, and social norms. They adjust themselves to meet the needs and expectations of those around them. Strengths: deep empathy, emotional coordination within groups, relationship building. Weaknesses: they can lose touch with their own emotions, over-sacrifice to maintain harmony, and become dependent on external validation. Introverted feeling. Phi characteristics. In contrast to Fei, Phi types guard their inner flame, a powerful, deeply rooted personal value system that is not easily shaken. Approach to reality. They evaluate the world through their moral compass, making decisions based on a deep sense of right and wrong within, even if society disagrees. Strengths: strong values, creativity, the ability to inspire through art or philosophy. Weaknesses: difficulty expressing emotions, self-isolation, and feeling out of place if their surroundings don't align with their values. Extroverted sensing. Say, characteristics. These are people who live fully in the present moment. They engage the world through their five senses, enjoying experiences, action, and tangible reality. Approach to reality. They focus on what can be touched, seen, heard, and react quickly to their environment. Strengths: sharp perception, adaptability, quick reactions, always ready to seize opportunities. Weaknesses: lack of long-term planning, overly focused on the present, overlooking long-term consequences. Introverted sensing. C. Characteristics. They are keepers of vivid memories, valuing tradition, past experiences, and seeking security in the familiar. Approach to reality. They compare the present with the past, relying on personal experiences to assess everything. Strengths: reliability, patience, the ability to recall details others forget. Weaknesses: resistance to change, attachment to the familiar, difficulty adapting to new things. Extroverted intuition. Nay. Characteristics. Idea explorers. They connect objects, events, and seek new possibilities, constantly expanding boundaries. Approach to reality. They move from one idea to another, always exploring hidden potentials. Strengths: creativity, ideation, seeing possibilities others overlook. Weaknesses: lack of focus, abandoning projects midway, difficulty turning ideas into reality. Introverted intuition. Ni. Characteristics. People with profound, visionary intuition. They see patterns and trends in the unconscious, sensing what is yet to come. Approach to reality. They process information deeply, perceiving hidden meanings, and visualizing the bigger picture of the future. Strengths: strategic thinkers, long-term visionaries, understanding the underlying essence of things. Weaknesses: too enigmatic, difficulty articulating thoughts, detachment from the present. 8 personality types, 8 unique lenses. No one is fully one type, but how your mind operates always has a dominant function. And when you understand which type you lean toward, you begin to uncover the truth about how you live, think, feel, and love. 5. Dive into each personality type. What are your strengths and blind spots? Understanding the 8 personality types is like discovering the operating map of your own mind, but that's only scratching the surface. Each type has its light and its shadow, its unique strengths, but also carries invisible blind spots. Jung once said, "Where there is the brightest light, there is also the deepest shadow." This is human nature. Your greatest strength is also where you are most likely to stumble. And if you fail to recognize your blind spots, they will operate unconsciously, creating emotional wounds you won't understand. Let's dive deeper, not to label yourself, but to clearly recognize which strengths you can amplify and which blind spots you need to face. Extroverted thinking. Tate. Efficiency is strength. Emotions are the blind spot. Strength. You are a master of productivity and order. No one can organize, manage, and execute tasks as effectively as you. In the eyes of others, you are a brilliant problem solver, always turning ideas into action. Blind spot. But because you focus so much on results, systems, and logic, you often overlook your own emotions and those of others. Have you ever pushed a project to the finish line, but lost connection with your team along the way? Do you find yourself frustrated with those who seem too sensitive? That's your blind spot. Emotions are not obstacles, They are the glue that binds people together. Introverted thinking. T. Depth is strength. Reality is the blind spot. Strength. You possess a rich inner world where every assumption is challenged. Every concept analyzed its roots. You're not easily swayed by the crowd because you always demand precision and purity in thought. Blind spot. But when you dive too deep into the theoretical, you lose touch with reality. Sometimes, you become paralyzed in action because you haven't found the perfect answer. You forget that the vibrancy of life doesn't wait for you to figure it all out. Extroverted feeling. Faith. Empathy is strength. Self is the blind spot. Strength. You are highly attuned to the emotions of others, reading the collective mood and adjusting yourself to foster harmony. You are the emotional heartbeat of any group you belong to. Blind spot. But by caring so much for others, you often abandon yourself. Have you ever said yes when you really wanted to say no? Have you suppressed your true feelings just to keep the peace? Your blind spot is not recognizing your own limits. Introverted feeling. Phi. Integrity is strength. Communication is the blind spot. Strength. You have a solid personal value system and know exactly where you stand in this world. No one can easily shake your foundation. You live true to your heart, even when faced with difference. Blind spot. But because you internalize so deeply, you may struggle to express your feelings and share your perspectives. Do you often feel misunderstood, even though there's a rich world inside you? Your blind spot is this. Emotions aren't just for feeling, they need to be expressed for others to connect with you. Extroverted sensing. Say, vibrancy is strength. Projection is the blind spot. Strength. You are a person of action, always living in the moment. You experience the world with all your senses, never missing an opportunity right in front of you. Blind spot. But because you focus so much on the present, you tend to overlook long-term planning. Have you ever chased after exciting moments, only to forget the bigger picture? Your blind spot is this. Not everything in front of you is the most important thing. Introverted sensing. C. Stability is strength. Change is the blind spot. Strength. You have the ability to store details and memories, living with deep past experiences, creating stability and reliability in everything you do. Blind spot. But by clinging too tightly to what's familiar, you often fear change. Have you ever turned down a new opportunity simply because it was unfamiliar? Your blind spot is this. Change can be an opportunity, not a threat. Extroverted intuition. Nay, creativity is strength. Focus is the blind spot. Strength. You are an explorer of ideas, constantly connecting everything together, discovering new possibilities others can't see. Blind spot. But with ideas flowing endlessly, you often leave things unfinished, lacking the patience to see one thing through to completion. Have you ever felt full of inspiration for a project, only to get swept away by a new idea? Your blind spot is this. Creativity needs persistence to become reality. Introverted intuition. Ni. Vision is strength. The present is the blind spot. Strength. You possess deep intuition, sensing patterns and hidden trends in life. You can see what's coming, even when others can't yet imagine it. Blind spot. But by immersing yourself in visions of the future, you often neglect the present, finding it hard to act right now. Have you ever devised a brilliant strategy but been too slow to start? Your blind spot is this. The future doesn't exist unless you begin in the present. Each personality type is a rough gemstone. The more you polish it, the more it shines. But the condition for polishing is daring to look into your own shadows. Jung believed, only when you confront your own darkness can you truly grow, and recognizing both your strengths and blind spots is the first step toward harmonizing all parts of yourself, getting closer to a whole version of you, one that fears neither shadow nor light. 6. The forgotten function. Invisible enemy or opportunity for growth. There is a paradox within the mind that Carl Jung uncovered. The weakest, most neglected part of you is precisely the key to your wholeness. It doesn't lie in the light-filled places where you shine, where your dominant functions radiate with ease. It resides deep beneath the surface of awareness, in the realm of shadows, in the spaces you avoid, in places you may not even know exist within you. Jung called this the inferior function, the invisible enemy that operates in the unconscious, occasionally erupting with intense emotional reactions, Moments of losing control, times when you behave in ways that feel completely unlike yourself. For thinkers, the inferior function might be feeling, leaving them flustered in the face of deep emotions. Avoiding emotional conversations because they simply don't know how to process them. For feelers, the inferior function might be thinking, causing them to feel uneasy in situations that demand sharp logic. Wounded by having to make cold decisions. For sensors, the inferior function might be intuition, making them uncomfortable with uncertainty. Disliking abstract possibilities. For intuitives, the inferior function is sensing, leaving them impatient with the present. Disconnected from reality, struggling with the details of everyday life. When the inferior function rises, those moments when you don't recognize yourself. Have you ever exploded with emotion, even though you're typically calm, judged harshly, despite always being empathetic, felt paralyzed in action, though you're usually creative and spontaneous? These moments aren't you changing, they're your inferior function rising from the unconscious, often during stress, exhaustion, or when something pushes you outside your comfort zone. Jung explained, the unconscious takes over when the conscious mind can no longer control. And the inferior function surfaces in its ugliest form, not because it's inherently bad, but because it has never been trained, understood, or integrated, the invisible enemy. When you let the weak spot remain unconscious, if you ignore your inferior function, it becomes an invisible enemy, quietly shaping how you think, feel, and behave from the background. A thinker may become ruthless when feelings arise, unable to handle them in a healthy way. A feeler may lash out with cutting logic, damaging relationships through uncontrolled reasoning. A sensor may panic when faced with uncertainty, unaccustomed to living with ambiguity. An intuitive may lose themselves in future visions, neglecting basic present needs, leading to burnout. The inferior function doesn't disappear when neglected. It hides in the shadows, waiting to reclaim control when you are at your weakest. An opportunity for growth, befriending the weakest part of yourself. Jung didn't see the inferior function as something to eliminate, but as a chance to expand yourself, to step beyond your psychological comfort zone, to move closer to wholeness. He said, the inferior function is the gateway to real growth. For thinkers, that means learning to listen to emotions, not letting them rule, but understanding them, empathizing with others. For feelers, that means sharpening logical analysis to defend their values with reason, not just emotion. For sensors, it's about dreaming, imagining new possibilities, to avoid getting trapped in the present. For intuitives, it's about grounding themselves in the here and now, building step by step, turning ideas into reality. Integration, a slow but essential journey. Integrating the inferior function isn't something that happens overnight. It's a slow, challenging process, but deeply rewarding. It begins with awareness, recognizing when you're avoiding that weak spot, when it rises unconsciously. Then comes acceptance, instead of judging yourself, seeing it as a part of you that needs care. Finally, comes practice, stepping outside your comfort zone, experimenting with behaviors, emotions, thoughts you usually avoid. Examples: an extroverted thinker spending quiet time tuning into their inner feelings, an introverted feeler joining debates to sharpen their reasoning, an extroverted intuitive practicing mindfulness to reconnect with the present, an introverted sensor writing down abstract ideas to open their worldview. The inferior function is an invisible enemy if left in the unconscious, but the greatest teacher when you dare to step toward it and learn from it. Jung believed, we do not grow by flaunting our strengths, but by facing the weakest parts of ourselves. And that journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the fullest version of who you are, where strengths and weaknesses coexist, harmonize, and support one another. 7. The shadow of the mind, when the rejected parts control you from the unconscious. If you've ever experienced moments of losing control, overreacting, or feeling an irrational dislike for someone, chances are the shadow within your mind is whispering something you're not yet ready to hear. Carl Jung called this part the shadow, the dark side of the mind. It's not evil, but it consists of everything you've ever rejected, suppressed, or denied within yourself. These are the emotions, thoughts, desires, and traits that you or society have deemed unacceptable, so you've pushed them into the hidden corners of your unconscious. A person who always tries to appear strong might bury their weakness and fear in the shadow. Someone who strives to be kind might hide their anger and jealousy. A person who prides themselves on being rational may suppress intense, uncontrollable emotions, but these rejected parts don't disappear. They wait, silently operating from the unconscious, and then erupt at the most unexpected moments. When the shadow speaks, signs you've lost touch with yourself. There are moments when you ask yourself, why did I get so angry over something so trivial? Why'd I feel jealous, even though I know it's irrational? Why'd I dislike someone, even though they haven't done anything wrong? The answer may lie here. You're not reacting to the person or event in front of you, but to a part of yourself that you've repressed. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When you're annoyed by someone's selfishness, you might be rejecting your own selfishness. When you despise another's weakness, you could be hiding from your own fear of weakness. The shadow distorts how you see the world. It makes you react instead of reflect, attack instead of understand, judge instead of accept. The shadow's mechanism: repression, projection, domination, repression. As a child, you learned that certain emotions and thoughts were wrong. Instead of being taught how to process them, you pushed them into the unconscious. Anger, greed, envy, desire, all locked away in a dark room. Projection. But those parts don't stay dormant. They find ways to escape by projecting onto others. You see in them what you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. This explains why some people annoy you right from the start, even if they've done nothing wrong. Domination. When the shadow grows strong enough, it invades consciousness, making you act out of character. In those moments, you're no longer yourself. You become the ungoverned part of yourself. The shadow is not an enemy, it's the forgotten part of you. Jung emphasized, you cannot become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The shadow is not an enemy to be destroyed. It's the forgotten friend knocking on your mind's door, asking to be heard. Anger can become courage when properly understood. Jealousy can serve as a reminder of unacknowledged desires. Fear can be a necessary protector, helping you recognize your limits. When you reject these emotions, they become monsters, but when you face them and understand them, they become sources of strength. Facing the shadow, a journey not for the impatient. Step 1. Recognize strong emotional reactions. The things that make you angry, envious, or contemptuous of others are often signals from your shadow. Don't rush to blame the outside. Ask yourself, what part of me is being triggered? Step 2. Write it down. When emotions surge, write your thoughts and feelings as honestly as possible. No need to edit, no need to make it pretty. Just let it all out. Step 3. Observe without judgment. The shadow cannot withstand the light of mindful observation. Look at those emotions as parts of yourself, not to eliminate, but to understand and integrate. The shadow is the door to wholeness. Jung called this process individuation, the journey toward becoming the fullest version of yourself, where light and shadow coexist, not denying each other but supporting each other. When you walk with your shadow, you become stronger because you're no longer controlled by what you've denied. You become more compassionate because you realize that what you once despised in others also exists within you. You become freer because you no longer need to wear a mask of perfection, nor avoid your imperfections. The shadow of the mind, what seems like the enemy, is actually the door leading you back to yourself. Not to become perfect, but to become truly whole. 8. Practical application. How self-understanding leads to success in relationships and career. Self-knowledge isn't just a spiritual journey or theoretical concept. It's a survival tool that helps you navigate relationships, careers, and the most important decisions in life. Carl Jung didn't develop personality models just so you could identify which group you belong to. He wanted to give you a roadmap to dive deeper into the real world, where you know how to connect better with others, choose the right career path, and handle conflicts more intelligently. Self-understanding isn't just about knowing who you are, it's about knowing how to live in alignment with yourself, how to stop fighting against your environment, and how to find the space where you can naturally thrive instead of forcing yourself to fit. In relationships, when you understand yourself, you also understand others. Relationships, whether romantic, family, or professional, often break down not from a lack of love, but from differences in how we process reality. A thinking type might believe, "This is simple, logic will solve it," but a feeling type might sense, "Why aren't you considering how I feel?" An intuitive person dreams about future possibilities, while a sensing person focuses on what's tangible here and now. The conflict isn't in the essence, it's in the different ways we process information. Jung pointed out, if you don't understand how others perceive the world, you will always find them confusing, even wrong. But when you know your personality type and that of others, you can lower unrealistic expectations. Stop demanding that a feeling person be as logical as you or that a sensing person dream as much as you do. Adjust communication. Know when to lead with reasoning, when to listen with empathy. Find harmony, not through compromise, but through understanding, connecting from the right lens. For example, an extroverted feeling, fate person is often hurt that their emotions are ignored. An introverted thinking, T person tends to analyze everything logically, possibly overlooking the other's feelings. Without understanding this, conflicts escalate, but with awareness, you find a common language. The thinking person opens up to feelings, while the feeling person accepts that logic plays a role in problem solving. In career, when you understand yourself, you choose the right environment to thrive. Not everyone suits a stable or flexible job, or a structured or creative workplace. Career failure often doesn't stem from lack of ability but from being in the wrong environment, doing work that contradicts the way your mind operates. An extroverted thinking, T person thrives in structured environments where they can manage, organize, and drive results. Leadership, project management, and roles where outcomes are measurable suit them. In contrast, an introverted thinking, T person may feel drained in fast-paced environments because they need time for deep analysis and conceptual clarity. They fit better in analytical, research-oriented roles where the quality of thought matters more than speed. An extroverted feeling, fate person flourishes in people-centric environments where emotions and connections are valued. Fields like education, customer service, or HR are their stage. Meanwhile, an introverted feeling, fight person prefers independent spaces where they can live true to their values, such as the arts, writing, or freelance work. An extroverted sensing, say, person shines in action-oriented, fast response settings like business, sports, or events where real-time experience is core. Conversely, an introverted sensing, C person needs stability, familiarity, and clear procedures. Roles in administration, accounting, or operations suit them. An extroverted intuitive, nay, person loves exploration, creativity, constant innovation. Startups, marketing, design are their playground. An introverted intuitive, neat person thrives in strategic roles, forecasting, building long-term visions like market analysis, strategy, or senior advisory positions. Understanding yourself isn't a box, it's a tool for smarter choices. Many confuse knowing their personality type with labeling themselves, but Jung didn't intend for you to be limited. He wanted you to know your strengths and weaknesses so you could choose environments wisely. If you know you're an extroverted intuitive, don't force yourself into repetitive work. If you're an introverted sensor, don't assume you had to be as creatively explosive as others. It's not that you aren't capable, you just haven't found the right place to shine. When career conflicts decrease, your energy increases. Imagine waking up excited because your work fits how your mind functions, feeling natural and effective in meetings, not strained or forced, no longer guessing what others want in relationships, but understanding how they process information. That's the power of self-understanding. Not to swap partners or careers every time there's a problem, but to know how to adjust, select, and thrive. Understanding yourself means understanding how your mind operates. Understanding how your mind operates is the first step toward living true, living well, living effectively. Understanding yourself, the journey back to wholeness. Each person carries within them a unique map of the mind. There are bright regions where strengths shine clearly, but there are also shadowy corners where weaknesses hide, where forgotten functions linger, where rejected emotions reside, and it is precisely in the intersection between light and shadow that true growth begins. Understanding yourself is not a quest for a single definitive answer, but rather an ongoing journey of reflection and discovery. It is the realization that you are not only your strengths, but also the vulnerable parts that need care, the hidden spaces that long to be understood. In relationships, knowing yourself allows you to see others through a more compassionate lens, easing unnecessary conflicts and opening space for genuine connection. In your career, understanding yourself helps you choose the right place to shine, freeing you from the burden of forced roles and performances. Above all, understanding yourself is a return to your most complete self, where reason and emotion, intuition and reality coexist and complement one another. Without denial or suppression, this is the path to inner freedom, where you no longer live by imposed molds, but live true to your essence, gently, yet profoundly.